We're planning to implement modern armored vehicles into the game. This is a huge step forward in the development of our product. Naturally, we'll need to work hard, but the task is certainly achievable. The development process is still in its early stages, but we can share some details with you already.
The new vehicles will be placed at Tier 11, and you'll be able to research them just like any other vehicle. It's too early to talk about the exact list of vehicles we'll implement into the game, but you can see the first Tier 11 vehicles already. They are the Leopard 1A5, the T90, the M1 Abrams, and the Challenger 2.
Hey guys, what is going on? Lucky here, and I'm sorry if you just got a little bit confused by that little intro clip, but don't worry, all your questions and doubts will be answered in this video. But anyways, welcome to a World of Tanks news video. What? Okay, I know I usually don't like doing these news videos since I find it overall pretty boring, but this one is a lot different because I came across something so damn cool that I just had to make a video about it. So just to dive straight into it, a few days ago this very weird looking Tier 10 Soviet tank popped up on the radar, so called the Object 726. And yeah, you could probably see it already by looking at the images, it has 4 flipping tracks. And that's not all, because if you take a look at its stats, and guys also please keep in mind that this thing is still in the super test, so everything is still subject to change, but the stats this thing currently has are just insane, even for a tier 10 vehicle. So let's just run them down one by one so you can get an idea of how strong this vehicle possibly is. So to start off with, it has 2400 hit points, which is dead average for a tier 10 heavy, nothing special there, but once we start to move on the armor, yeah, things start to get a little bit shaky. So whole armor 200 at the front, 150 at the side, and 90mm at the rear.
Oh, Lucky, stop complaining about everything Wargaming does. 200mm of frontal armor is fine. Even tier 8s can pen that reliably.
Oh, okay, well, let's take a look at the hull shape then. Looks pretty steep to me. So let's turn that 200mm into, I think, about 300mm of effective armor.
Oh my god, who the hell cares? You just shoot it at its lower plates, so everyone can pen that with ease.
You mean the lower plate that is coincidentally covered by those big ass track wheels in the center? Well, I wish you all the best of luck to hit that reliably. But with all the jokes aside guys, let's now just finish off the rest of the stats. So turret armor 350 at the front, 150 at the side, and 90 at the rear, nothing special, just your standard Soviet impenetrable type turret. So engine power 850 horsepower, turret reverse speed 32 degrees per second, hull reverse speed 30 degrees per second, and 400 meters view range, again dead average for a heavy tank. The top speed, 40 km per hour forwards and 13 km per hour backwards. Very nice forward speed, only that reverse speed is kinda nasty. It pretty much means that this tank can pull back behind a ridgeline as fast as a torque can drive forwards. Yeah, that's not good. But then again, 14.2 horsepower per ton ratio is pretty good for a heavy tank. Then the gun, again nothing too special. It's very comparable with the IS Force gun with some little improvements. And the gun elevation values -5 and +15. Which is bad, but again, it's pretty standard for a Russian tank, so yeah, it's kinda expectable. So anyways guys, my opinion about this vehicle, do I like it? Yes, it looks pretty cool and unique. Would I like to see it in the game? As a tier 10, fuck no. I mean, come on, look at this armor, it's ridiculous. Probably 300mm of effective upper plate, a non-hittable lower plate, and you've got the V-shaped hull that is 150mm thick. And remember how butthurt the community was of the pre-nerfed Object 257? Yeah, that was only a 65mm thick V-shaped hull. So just imagine what a 150mm thick V-shaped hull would be like. Yeah, you get my point now. But there is one circumstance which I would love to see this vehicle being added into the game, but more on that later near the end of this video. But first I want to talk about the second controversial thing that happened just a few days ago after the post about the Object 762 got released. So if you have been living under a rock for the past week, let me just explain in short what happened. So when this news article about the super testing of the Object 726 got released. Shortly after, Des Games made a video about it because, come on, it's Des, he's simply faster than the wind if it's about World of Tanks news. And also, by the way, he did a pretty good job at covering the Object 762 and the tank that I'm going to be talking about next. So I'll leave links to his video in the description down below, so if you want to know more about this topic, make sure to check it out because I think it's definitely worth it. But I'm drifting away from the story. Basically, in Des's video about the Object 726, he said in a joking way that we could expect the Object 279 after this.
So next up, I guess we can expect Object, what was it, 279?
And yeah, that's exactly what happened, because 1 week later, a news article got released talking about the next completely ridiculous Russian tank, the Object 279. And if you've never heard about the Object 279 before, well, just have a look at it yourself. Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing when I saw it. What the hell is that? I mean, really, if I take away its tracks, it kind of looks like a 1962 experimental Russian UFO. But if you thought that its looks already look ridiculous, just wait until I show you its super test stats. So to start off with, 2150 hit points, which is actually one of the lowest amounts among the tier 10 heavies, so that's nothing special, but it's only when we start to move on to the armor values when things are starting to get very scary. So on the whole, it is 310mm thick at the front, 214 at the sides and 100 at the rear. And for the turret, it's 305mm thick at the front, 217 at the side and 90 at the rear. Okay, let's take a breather right here. So 310mm of frontal hull armor. That means that if a tier 10 Russian medium tank rolls low with its 330 heat penetration, it has about a 50-50% chance to get through this. Well, that's correct if the armor was flat. But just take a look at the Object 279's hull shape. I have never seen such intense angles on a tank's armor ever before in this game. And just imagine all those intense angles are all 310mm thick at the front. So you know what, guys, let's create a potential effective armor thickness, because I can't tell you guys the exact value of the effective armor thickness since there is no 3D armor model available of this thing yet. So taking a look at the angle, it looks kind of like a 70-degree-ish angle. So that means that it's kind of comparable with the angling on the STRV 103B, which is, by the way, known for having the steepest angle on the game. So let's take that thing as a reference. Taking a look at the STRV 103B's armor model, we can see that at an angle of 70 degrees, the armor becomes about 3 times as thick as its original value. So as you can see right here, the original armor thickness unangled is 50mm thick and the effective value is 150mm thick. Again, an increase of about 3 times. So if we assume the angle of the front plate of the Object 279 is about 70 degrees, which I think actually is realistically a lot more because you also have those round curves on the edges. But anyways, let's just go out from the worst case scenario and let's just take 70 degrees for this example, which seems kind of realistic. So let's calculate its effective armor thickness. So 310 base thickness times 3 results in an effective armor thickness of roughly 930mm. And considering the highest penetration round is the Jagdpanzer E100 heat round with 420mm of penetration, that makes the Object 279 easily frontally immortal. So guys, while that is sinking in, let's quickly cover the rest of its stats and see if the Object 279 has some other surprises ready for us to uncover. So furthermore, it has an 130mm caliber gun with 490 alpha damage, 313mm of standard penetration, 390mm of premium penetration, and 65mm of HE penetration. And that is a lot for a tier 10 heavy tank. Just to put it in perspective, these penetration values are better than the penetration values of the STRV 103B, which is known for being the best sniper in the game. So the Object 279's gun has better penetration than one of the best tier 10 tank destroyers in the game. So while that is sinking in, let's again try and move on with the rest of the stats, and hopefully without too many more shocking discoveries. So the reload time is 9.59 seconds, which also is on the faster side for 130mm guns, but not really that you say like, wow, that's so overpowered. And obviously the rate of fire 6.26 rounds per minute, which results into a damage per minute of 3066, which is pretty nice for a tier 10 heavy tank. So accuracy wise, it has a dispersion of 0.336 with a 1.44 seconds aim time. And again, this is only 0.036 away from the SCRV 103B's dispersion, and remember the SCRV 103B is pretty much made for sniping and it really needs that accuracy in order to be competitive. And yeah, the 279 has just only 0.036 dispersion value worse than this. Moving on to the gun angles, it's -5 degrees and +17 degrees, pretty standard for a Russian vehicle. Turret reverse 26.1 degrees a second, hold reverse 40 degrees a second, so the turret reverse is pretty average, but the hold reverse is leaning towards medium tank mobility. Let's see what the rest of the mobility stats have to say. Engine power 1000 horsepower, pretty healthy. Specific power to ton ratio is 16.82, which is again leaning more towards the slower medium tanks in the game. And then to top it all off, a top speed of 55 km per hour forwards and 20 km per hour backwards, which is pretty standard for medium tanks and even some slower light tanks. And to top it all off, it has pretty good terrain resistances as well. But what did you expect for a tank with 4 flipping tracks? And to finish the stats of this vehicle off, finally something kinda normal about this thing: 400 meters view range and 730 meters signal range. So to sum it all up, do I like this vehicle? Yes, I do. It's probably one of the coolest and awesome looking tanks out there. Do I want it in the game? Yes. Yeah, you've heard me right. I really hope Wargaming puts this vehicle into the game. But, and here is where my previous statement that I made while I was talking about the 726 is leading to as well, not as a tier 10 vehicle. Come on guys, you know I'm not retarded. Well, maybe a little bit, but I'm not retarded enough to realize that putting these vehicles into the game as tier 10 will completely trash the World of Tanks gameplay. But I do really believe that these tanks would be amazing additions to the game as tier 11, 12 and maybe 13 tanks, depending on their strength level, together with some more modern tanks introduced after 1970, like for example the German Leopard 2, the American M1 Abrams, the British Challenger 2 or the Russian T-90.
Oh my god, no! That would completely ruin the historical World War II looks of World of Tanks! You're such an idiot! No one would like that idea!
For God's sake, would you guys please allow me to finish my sentences before raging out in the comment section? Yes, thank you very much. So just to clarify, I completely agree with you, because adding these vehicles in the random battles so they can still meet tier 9 and 10 tanks is a stupid idea and would completely ruin the gameplay even more than it's already ruined now. And that's why I think Wargaming should make a separate matchmaker solely for tier 11, 12 and 13 tanks as a so-called modern tank combat game mode. Personally, I think that would be a pretty cool addition to the game. This basically means that you can simply unlock those tier 11 tanks, for example by researching and buying them into the tech tree throughout your standard tier 10 tanks. For example, the Leopard 1 will lead to the Leopard 2, and the Super Conqueror will lead to the Challenger 2, etc. And after that you can of course play them, but they can only face other tier 11, 12 or 13 tanks. So all summarized, I think that the Object 726 and the Object 279 are amazingly cool tanks, and they would be a very cool addition to the game, but not as tier 10 vehicles, but as tier 11 plus vehicles. And I think that together with some more modern tanks, they would form a nice and exciting new game mode for World of Tanks. So guys, that was pretty much all for today's video, so I hope you enjoyed it or found it interesting. So if you did, please drop a like, that would really help my channel out. Also, if you are new to the channel and you like my videos, make sure to smack that subscribe button so you'll stay up to date with all my future content. And also, what do you think about the Object 726 and the Object 279? Are they cool? Do they suck? And what do you think about the tier 11, 12 and 13 idea? Please let me know in the comments down below. I'm very curious on what you guys think about this topic as well. And of course, as always, I'll let the replay finish in the background in case you're interested. So now all that's left for me to say is have an awesome day, and I'll catch you guys later.
Jack it up.